bias here.
Okay, Android cider vinegar is also really good for you.
Wait, what do you do with apple cider vinegar?
Yeah. What's that?
It's cleansing. It cleans out your system, your liver, your kidney. I take a tablespoon in the morning and night, and it helps with weight loss and dissolves fat. It's also for my acid reflux. You would think it would do the opposite because it's acid, but it actually pretty much fixes it. So I
actually use apple cider vinegar in some recipes, like my meatloaf calls for it, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't know you could.
Yeah, I have some in my pantry.
Yeah, it has to be that natural mother. Yeah, it can't be the distilled clear one. That one is not good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not good for the things that you're talking about, anyway.
Yeah, let me go ahead and tweet this out.
Apple cider vinegar or Android cider vinegar, whichever you prefer.
Open source vinegar.
Linux vinegar.
Linux vinegar. Uh-oh. I can't have that coming up.
Linux on the desktop is Chrome OS, but it's funny because nobody in the Linux community really wants to count that because it's Google. And it's all locked down, right?
Oh, does the Linux community not like Google?
No, it's the idea of Linux on the desktop has always been like a free open source version of an operating system that anybody can download and put, and reduce prices and freedom. And Chrome OS, even though it's Linux based, isn't that. It's tied to the device and you can only log in with your Google ID. And it's just not quite the dream everyone expected.
Gotcha.
Just don't be evil.
I'm hoping I don't cough because I have a little cold that's pulling out of me.
All right.
But if I do,
we will cure it.
I have a mute button I can press and cough away.
I'm sorry you got a cough. God. I started to feel a little scratchy throat yesterday, but then it went away. So
yeah, I had one Saturday. I'm taking some antibiotics for an unrelated issue, and then I've been out in a few days, and then I get this really scratchy, tight feeling in my throat, and I got I was thinking, oh my God, is the antibiotics closing my throat or something? So, but it wasn't. I went and got checked out. Just abundance of precaution. It was just a cold pulling out. Maybe because I'm eating so well and losing so much weight. It's like we're gonna make you pay for that. Attack them.
You know what the greatest thing about losing weight for me was being able to move my belt one extra notch.
That is always nice. I wear sweatpants most of the time because that's a fat guy thing. But they've been getting looser. I went to the store and they were almost falling. I feel like a game banger. They were, I was like one of the cool young guys. Yeah, they're falling down to my ankles. What's up, kids?
No. Hello, fellow teenagers. All right, you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Here we go. 3, 2.
Hello, all you beautiful people. The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by you. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com. And we thank you for your support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, April 16th, 2018 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
Also in Los Angeles, I'm Lamarr Wilson.
And you know who else is in Los Angeles? Well, sort of. He's real close. Our producer, Roger.
Yes, I'm very close. I'm but a 4-minute, actually not even a 4-minute freeway drive away.
We're all in the same county anyway.
That's right.
True. We're all LA County, so you can claim Los Angeles. You can claim it even more than the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Roger.
It's true. They are quite some distance away.
They're not even in the LA County. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Ride-hailing company Ola said it will add 10,000 electric three-wheelers to its fleet in India over the next year, starting in 3 cities yet to be announced. Ola plans to have 1 million electric vehicles available by 2021.
Russia's communications regulator ordered ISPs to begin blocking Telegram within 24 hours Monday. A court ruled that Telegram had failed to comply with legislation requiring companies to give the FSB access to messages. Kremlin officials who use Telegram have moved to ICQ, owned by Mail.ru.
ICQ.
I know. That's why I smiled when I saw that.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's
wow.
great. Hey, Sony announced the Xperia XZ2 Premium. It is a slight improvement over the XZ2. It gets a 5.8-inch 4K display, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 3,540 milliamp hour battery. Also splits the rear camera into 19 megapixel color and 12 megapixel monochrome sensors, with a claim of ultra low light capture equivalent to interchangeable lens cameras. There's all kinds of cool ISO numbers for you camera folks to go check out. The XZ2 Premium will be available this summer. Sony also announced a 10.3-inch version of its digital paper tablet that's 5.9 millimeters thick, weighs about a half pound, and can last a month on a charge. That'll be available in early June. It's usually available outside of Japan, but it's mostly marketed in Japan. All right, let's talk a little bit more about cybersecurity. We have a couple of worldwide issues going on here, starting with an alert.
Yeah, the UK's National Cybersecurity Center, the FBI, and the US Department of Homeland Security issued a joint warning of a broad campaign by what they believe are Russian-sponsored agents to hijack essential internet hardware from the ISPs and other critical infrastructure operators. So yeah, this sounds scary, and the Russians are coming to get us. But I don't have a lot of information on it. But I do want to point out one thing I saw in an article is that we're doing the exact same thing to them. So it's one of those situations. Is like, do we get enraged, angry, or do we say, well, we're equally bad on their side too? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the news here isn't that there are organizations trying to hack into big companies and ISPs by way of infrastructure. That has been happening for a long time. Yes. It's not even big news that it is possibly state sponsored. That has been suspected for a long time, and we have evidence that Israel, United States, Korea, North Korea, Russia have all done this in the past. What I think is news here is that the UK and the US are going on record pointing a finger. A lot of that plays into other diplomatic events going on around Syria, around Russia's possible role in the 2016 election, and all of that. So I'm sure this is part of that whole diplomatic playbook. But on the tech side of things, it actually is fairly useful, I would hope, for companies to get an official sharing of information saying, these are the kind of attacks we're seeing. These are the kinds of measures you need to make sure you're taking. Please go through this checklist. Make sure your sysadmins are on board. I'm sure a lot of sysadmins are rolling their eyes saying, yeah, we know about this. But as we know, there are sometimes holes that aren't realized if you're not looking.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah.
The U.S. Commerce Department has denied ZTE the right to export sensitive technology from the U.S., which means U.S. suppliers can no longer sell parts to ZTE. And that's actually significant because U.S. suppliers make up an estimated 25% of components that ZTE uses in its products. Commerce says ZTE didn't issue letters of reprimand or withhold bonuses from employees who engaged in illegal conduct. ZTE agreed in March of last year to pay as much as $1.2 billion for violating U.S. laws restricting sale of U.S. technology to Iran.
There's a few different ways to look at this story. If you're outside the United States, and especially if you're inside China, it looks like trumping up charges against ZTE to fight them off and keep them from making money in the United States market. If you're inside the U.S., it looks like they're trying to say it is a system of, we caught them sharing technology with Iran, we punished them, they didn't follow through on the punishments, so now we were punishing them further. It really is going to be an issue for ZTE if they can't source parts from Qualcomm, for instance. If they can't have Snapdragon processors, it's not the end of the world. There are plenty of other processor makers out there, and in fact, this could have a knock-on effect to benefit the Samsungs of the world, or maybe even Huawei, which makes its own processors, to be able to sell processors to ZTE. So I'm not sure this will have the effect that it's intended to necessarily, but it is a significant development one way or another.
Yeah, it made me think, you mentioned Huawei, and we've done a similar thing to them, blocking them out of the market.
Only out of government, though. We've never blocked one way out of the entire country. This says you can't even buy parts. That's a step up, right?
Absolutely. So just in general, I guess there's a perception issue. Are we blocking them because there's a fear of of competition, or I can see the point on the other side.
But I would also caution and suggest that this is happening because they broke the law, right? It wasn't something where we don't like ZTE because they looked at us funny. It's like they were caught
ZTE says they weren't breaking the law. So, I mean, they admitted the Iran thing, but they're disputing about the letters of reprimand.
Yeah, I'm just being devil's advocate here. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. Yeah,
it just seems like, if ZTE issued letters of reprimand, they could be like, well, we did, and here they are.
Yeah, why wouldn't they, right? So it doesn't seem like doesn't seem like the kind of thing you'd necessarily create out of fiction, but I get what you're saying, Roger, which is, if ZTE would not dispute that they failed to do these things, then you punish them for that. Is this the appropriate punishment, though? That's a whole other question.
Whole other question.
All right. A study from Analysis Mason shows China has the best rollout plan for 5G, followed by South Korea, then the United States, then Japan. Now, all four are given kudos for having rollout plans. They're just saying China seems to have the best one of the four. The study evaluated the best combination of wireless carriers committing to the technology, government backing for research, the clarity of the rollout plan by 2020, and each government's commitment to use of the spectrum. Now, you may say, oh, so who paid for this? Huawei? No, the U.S., the CTIA, the lobbyist group for the U.S. wireless carriers, paid Analysis Mason to conduct this study. And maybe, you jump to the conclusions when people pay for studies that they pay for them for a reason, because they often do. If the CTIA kind of knew what this analysis would find, the reason they would back it is they want to push the United States government to do more, because AT&T and Verizon particularly have very robust rollout plans for 5G, but they've been complaining that they haven't had the government support that they would like.
Yeah, and the government is actually floating the idea of doing a nationalized 5G network, which
that was actually blown out of proportion. Did you not?
Okay, I didn't hear that. No.
So it was one person in a meeting suggested a thing and then went to write a paper, and then it was like taken out of context and said the government is planning this.
Okay,
and
I understand.
So I see that still bandied around. No, I'm glad you brought it up, because I think a lot of people are still thinking that's a plan when it was a notion of maybe a couple of people.
Yeah. They still want to have the leadership in 5G. So cool.
Well, and you don't need to have a nationalized 5G network for the government to support what the carriers are doing.
Right.
And frankly, this probably serves the carriers' interest more than anything, because while China may have ended up nosing out the others in this study, all four of these countries have all four of these things. And you see, what you really want to worry about is if you're Europe or India or Nigeria, where you're like, oh, we aren't even mentioned in this study. Like, maybe we need to get our act together, especially Europe, right?
Yep. So police in Wales use an image recovered from a mobile phone app as evidence in 11 drug-related convictions. South Wales Police Scientific Support Unit were able to use fingerprints and a WhatsApp photo of a hand holding ecstasy tablets. Their photos show parts of the middle and bottom of a finger. Now, while national database records only keep the top part, other evidence pointed to a suspect who can then be confirmed by using this photo. So,
wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said on this one. If I was to, again, devil's advocate, because I like doing that, it made me think of when a traffic cam grabs your license plate and say you were speeding, that you don't actually get a real ticket. You just, you pay a fine and it goes away. It just made me wonder how heavily could they prosecute with something like this being a photo. But then, when you read further, you find out what they kind of got him for something else. And then while he was in the station, then they were able to identify him. So maybe that's not a good comparison here.
Yeah, it wasn't like they looked at the photo and ran it through the database and got a match, right? This is not CSI.
Yeah.
What it was is we've got a lot of evidence. We're pretty sure it's this guy. And if we can bring him in and match the part of the finger that we have a picture of, then that's further evidence to help the conviction. So it works the other way around. You narrow it down to the finger and then you match it to the photo to put the nail in the coffin to say, like, yeah, Your Honor, this finger here on this man is the same one seen in this picture holding the ecstasy tablets. So I rest my case.
So, right. It's not as if we all have to worry about being like, I thought it was Advil. I don't know. I was holding these tablets for like a second, I'm not selling ecstasy. It was, one of many reasons to point to this particular.
Also, if someone says, hey, hold these tablets so I can take a photo for WhatsApp. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it. And be smart. Wear gloves. Anyway.
Not even going to touch that, but I will move on. PC Mag reports that Samsung introduced the Galaxy J2 Pro in South Korea last week. Seems like yet another low-end phone with a 5-inch QHD AMOLED screen, 16 gigs of internal storage, front and rear cameras, Snapdragon 425 processor. But there's an interesting thing about this phone. The J2 Pro, you can use it for voice calls, you can use it for texting, but it has no internet service, no LTE, not even 3G, not to mention 5G, not even Wi-Fi. Costs $199,101, which is about $184 US. Samsung is also offering to replace the phone with a Galaxy S handset for students who take the 2019-20 College Scholastic Ability Test.
So, as a former
you got an internet addiction, this is the phone for you.
Yeah, as a former teacher, I thought of the idea of this, in a classroom where parents have to have a conduit to the kids, and we got to pick them up for something. Perfect phone for that situation. They're not sitting there looking at the internet, looking at things you're not supposed to. So I can see parents lighting up and really wanting this as an option, and teachers as well, schools in general.
Yeah, this is for mostly kids. It's mostly like, I really want my kid to have a phone, but I'm worried about what they'll do with it when I'm not there to supervise. And so if you lock it down to like, hey, you can take pictures, you can send me a picture of your science project or your basketball game over text message. That's great. You can call me when it's time to pick you up or if you have an emergency, but I'm not worried you're going to be out on the open internet without me doing something that I don't want you to do. Now, what was funny is I mentioned this to my wife this morning and she immediately thinks in the side of the kid. She's like, oh man, it'd be horrible if you were the kid that got stuck with this phone and all your friends have smartphones and you're the kid is like, my phone doesn't have the internet on it.
I mean, you can do a lot via text.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not the same as having, internet service, but it's not as if like this is going to restrict some sort of, like the, spread of information anyway. Can
you still do SMS Twitter? Is that still a thing?
I don't know.
That'd be
actually
awesome.
Should know the answer to that.
Yes, I think you still can. So that's an interesting aspect. There are a few SMS systems out there. Although now the thing is rocketing around in my mind that maybe they deprecated that finally not too long ago. But the point is like it's speed bumps, right? You're not going to stop your kid from doing all bad things by taking the internet off the phone. No. But, if you're thinking of it more as like, well, I don't want them to accidentally do something either. I don't want them to get a virus or get surveilled by Facebook. I just don't want them to do that. And this way they wouldn't do it on this phone anyway is something that is a fair point. And the other thing they mentioned in this article from the BBC is that it could also be used by older folks who just need to have cell phone and text and just don't need anything else, right? Like you don't want them accidentally going on the internet and installing apps that are going to get them in trouble. Not in trouble with the law kind of trouble, but like messing up their phone, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing because we went from like these phones have the internet in them to all phones have the internet to like maybe there's a use case for a phone that doesn't have the internet.
Well, and so many folks, it's sort of a trend these days where people saying like, social media is ruining my life. I got to step back. I need to like, get rid of some of these services. Interesting to maybe make a conscious decision to have a phone that simply cannot support a lot of that rather than having to, uninstall apps and make a big, to do about it.
I'm all for it.
If you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to Daily Tech Headlines, available on the Amazon Echo, on the Google Home, on the Anchor app, and of course as a podcast at dailytechheadlines.com. All right, we've seen lots of examples of what the Internet of Things might be useful for, and some of you would argue that it's not useful for many of those things that it promises to be, and certainly some are more hype than others, but here are some uses you might not hear as much about. CNET's Shara Tibkin and Roger Chang posted earlier this month another in CNET's series called Tech Enabled, and this particular article is about hearables. Now, the articles describe various devices used to help the hearing impaired. For instance, in the United States, the Over-the-Counter Hearing Aid Act lets adults with mild to moderate hearing loss now buy devices without a prescription. It means they're easier to get. That means companies can sell lower-priced models. It also ordered the FDA to designate a new category to be used by tech companies and headphone makers. Oticon, I knew I was going to do that. I'm like, it's not about sight, it's Oticon. Anyway, Oticon OPN can trigger your smart devices. It works as an Internet of Things device. So they tell the story of a user who gets up in the morning, and as soon as she puts in her hearing aid, the lights turn on, the coffee machine goes. If the doorbell rings, it chimes in her ear. It can stream audio from the phone. iPhone has a made for iPhone program that allows a lot of devices to interact directly with the iPhone for audio. Starkey is a company that's really aggressive in this space. They're streaming audio from the phone, like many of these are. By mid-year, they want to add accelerometers and gyroscopes so you can track motion, do things like detect falls in older users, or nod or shake in response to a smart assistant, so that you can just answer yes or no, and it will know, oh, they're shaking their head. Tracks normal activities and alerts a relative or caregiver if something seems wrong, using a little machine intelligence. And by the end of this year, they hope to have natural language translation, and they're working on heart rate and glucose sensors. They're like, we want these to be more than just hearing aids. We want them to be a device that helps you do everything. A lot of companies are putting them into augmented reality glasses as well. Companies like Bose and Samsung are adding all kinds of hearing assistant features to headphones. What do you think of this stuff, Lamarr?
Well, yeah, we were talking about health before the show, and it made me think as we get older, just things start breaking down or start happening to our body. And I for one have embraced the Internet of Things. I love having my watch that can keep a track of my heart rate. If it spikes, it alerts me, lets me know. If I'm, I've got to call 911, it'll alert my friends, and I've designated these type of advancements really enhance the quality of life. And so, for people who are hard of hearing, this brings a whole new world to them. With these devices. Number one, I love that you don't need a prescription for it, and that companies can come in and and compete on it and offers a really good value. And I see no negatives with this. There was also one funny one where they were talking about somebody who may not want to hear stuff will put these in for let's say you had a spouse who snores constantly. You put these in and it'll play some sounds so you don't hear anything around you. I thought that was really cool as well.
Yeah, some white noise stuff to keep you sleeping. I love that. The impression I got as I read this article is it's less now about, oh, there's a category of people, and even if it's 20% of the United States has hearing impairment of some sort, but it's less about like, oh, we need to help these people. It's about, hey, there's all kinds of things we can do in hearing assistance, some of which will benefit people without any kind of significant hearing impairment, and many of which will. And it just kind of blurs that line where it's no longer, oh, you have a hearing aid, you're in a category. It's, oh, you're wearing a hearing assistant device. What does it do for you? Does it help you hear better? Great. That's one thing. And in fact, or does it just like help you operate your smart home better, or both?
Right. I mean, the coffee maker is not really about hearing loss, right? It's sort of like, I'm ready for my day to start. This is how I tell my home to, kind of wake up with me. I love the idea of noise canceling earplugs, though.
Well, and this and earplugs that can do both, right?
Yeah.
They can assist you in hearing when you need it. Some of these have directional mics in them. I think Bose has that, where you can be wearing they call them hearphones, but forgive them for that. But they can allow you to, in a room, in a crowded room, they can cancel out some background noise and direct the mic towards the person you're looking at, so that it helps you particularly hear the person in front of you. And I just love the idea that the same device that can do that can then just like block out everything. Like, you know what? I want to go from hearing one person to no people.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. Yeah, I was thinking too, for the bed, you have these on, you have the white noise, and let's say, you could designate certain people to be emergency callers. Then you would hear them. You would hear that ring, or if the doorbell rang, you would get that directly in your ear. There's so many possibilities of this. Yes, we'll be having more devices on us, but again, it's about quality of life and enhancing, some of our sensors. I think it's a good thing.
There are a couple of these companies that are talking like, and they're already. I think Bose is doing this with some augmented reality glasses, where they're saying we think we can replace the smartphone because we can tell you what's around you, you can talk to it, and so you can get all the same kind of information you would get without having to look at a screen or type anything.
That's a stretch.
Yeah. I'm always nervous about relying on speech as my command system. Yeah. I don't like saying what I want out loud when I'm out in public.
Yeah. That's the problem with assistants.
It's not always pleasant. I mean, there are reasons.
I don't know. I've become pretty reliant on my little smart speaker at home to do a lot of things that I've trained myself not to look up on the internet.
Yeah.
And, at first it felt weird, and now it feels really normal. A friend of mine the other day, she lives in a different part of LA, and she was like, is it warm in Venice right now? And I was like, hey, is it warm here? Like tell me, smart speaker.
Yeah, but would you do that in public though? Would you, if you're in a crowded grocery store, would you yell at your phone the same thing?
I would probably not yell at my phone, but yes, it's much easier when I'm alone in my apartment to, do these experiments than out and about, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Big thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com and in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
We've been talking about GDPR quite a bit on DTNS, and Nate Langston has some good perspective on it from the UK.
Thanks, guys. There's only 1 month to go before arguably the biggest change to online data privacy law comes into force. And although it's a European law, it's going to affect companies anywhere in the world if they have data on EU citizens. Now, you've probably heard of it, GDPR. DTNS did a great summary a little while ago, but the clock is ticking, so we've got a super digestible layman's guide to what it means and how it's going to work, as told by one of the UK's leading experts on it. All that and a look at why city buses might benefit from ejector seats at techpodcast.uk.
Not to ride that bus. All right. Let's check the mailbag, Sarah.
This one comes from Oleg, who says, on Friday's podcast, you were wondering whether the blockade of Telegram in Russia is a big deal. I can tell you, it's a huge deal. I assume Oleg is in Russia. It's the most discussed news in the .ru segment of the web. That's top-level domain for Russia. Sites hosted outside Russia also provided tutorials for circumventing this blockade, because people are interested in that. Domestic pages with this content were taken down. Telegram is more than a peer-to-peer messaging service for a lot of folks in Russia. There are other uses, such as Telegram has become a de facto social network, kind of like Twitter. Almost all websites and media organizations have a Telegram channel, and quite a few news outlets exist as Telegram channels only. Also, Telegram has an encrypted voice service with a twist. We're talking about audio stuff. People on both ends see a string of emojis. You read the string to each other at the beginning of the conversation, and then you make sure that you're talking to the right person. It's often used by the opposition for event planning. Hope it provides additional perspective on the significance of Telegram in Russia.
Yeah, this is much more context than 9 million users, right? Like 9 million users is a lot, but this tells you what they're doing with it. And I'm glad he mentioned this, because a lot of people don't realize that Telegram is used a little bit like Snapchat. Not so much in the like short video message aspect, although that may be part of it, but it's not just for private messages. It is for that. Absolutely. But it's also for just sharing messages with a following, like any other social network. Very interesting. Oleg, thank you so much for sending us that email.
Thank you very much. And also thanks to Lamarr Wilson, who's joining us a lot more regularly these days. Lamarr, tell folks what you've been up to and how they can keep up with your work.
Yeah, thanks. I like being here. You all are kind of cool.
Cool too.
Stop. So yeah, I am on YouTube as my primary destination, doing all kind of gaming related lifestyle unboxings and just having a bunch of fun doing it. So you can find me at youtube.com/Lamarr Wilson. Any of my social medias are at Lamarr Wilson. Everything is just going great so far. You know, nothing big happening. Still enjoying that 10K computer that it's a thing.
And you got a HomePod. Are you still using it?
Yeah. So I bought 3 HomePods when they came out. 3. Yes. I've had nothing but problems with HomeKit since I've got it. And so this weekend, I threw my hands up and I said, I'm going back to Google Assistant. So I went and got all Google Homes again. Everything's working pristine. I don't have to yell at my HomePod to, it will say, sorry, we can't connect. So it was just awful for all of my lights and things. Couldn't turn things on. It's just not ready. It's a great speaker. It's just not ready for the HomeKit type stuff. So my perspective,
So more a problem with HomeKit particularly.
HomeKit particularly. I wouldn't say the speaker itself. It's just HomeKit has a lot of work to do.
All right, good to know.
Yeah.
Well, thanks to everybody who supports this show and makes it possible to do these episodes. We always have a monthly goal of getting to at least one more patron than last month. I feel like, Sarah, we should come up with something we'll do if we hit that, like some crazy stunt, like you'll eat a tarantula burger, or a cherry pie, or you'll wear a hearing aid. Something. What do you guys want us to do? We'll do it. Let us know and support us. Get us to that goal. We need 10 more people to be able to have at least one more patron than last month at patreon.com/DTNS.
Do it.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You got feedback, you got questions, you got comments, send it to us. We love hearing from everybody. We're also live Monday through Friday. If you can join us live, we'd love to have you then as well, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 20:30 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
We'll be back with Patrick Beja tomorrow. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Bingo.
Love that.
Good show.
Bingo.
Yes.
Kino. Ding, ding, ding.
Was I the only kid? Well, because I went to YMCA camp for many years during the summer. Was I the only one who sang like Bingo was his name? Like, does everyone know that song?
We sang it in summer camp, but we also sang it in school.
I never went to summer camp, and I know that song.
And did you also do it where it was backwards and it was Ognib?
No.
No, that
I don't recall.
That's
like
weird.
Judas Priest playing the record.
Yeah, which is Ognib is Bingo backwards. I guess we probably just sang it so many times that someone was like, "Let's do it backwards."
So
we did the thing where you would leave out a letter, B-N-G-O.
Oh yeah, and you
clap or something.
You're right. Yeah, we did that too.
I haven't revealed this to you all, but when I wake up in the morning, I sing that song every time.
You do
I
not.
thought you were going to say you actually never experienced childhood.
Well, that's a whole nother podcast. That's Lamarr Wilson After Dark podcast. Yeah.
You're like Mork. You come down and you're hatched completely adult from an egg.
Sure.
Mork, remember?
I would have preferred that, actually. I mean, it would avoid a lot of problems.
Jonathan Winters was his son on the show, remember? No one remembers. All right.
No, we remembered, Roger. I don't know if you realize how often you bring up this illusion. I'm not saying anything because I'm like,
All right, Tom.
Mork is one of your favorite references, and I should appreciate
Wait, how can it be my friend? That's like the first time I've brought it up in like 6 months.
Okay, it might have been 6 months. You're right.
Huawei be ZTEing you later.
Ooh.
Yeah, trying too hard. Kremlin doesn't get the telegram message. No.
You know what? That's just a quick hit. I feel weird naming the whole episode on that.
Yeah.
Drug dealers go thumbs up. That's
Okay.
Let's not call the show that, but I'd point.
That's pretty
points
funny.
for being creative, beat master.
Yeah.
I should like that one.
I thought it was Advil. Ha ha. That's funny.
I thought it was Advil. He told me to hold the Advil. What am I? What am I? You know, a criminal?
He said, "Here, take a picture of this Advil." I was like, "Okay."
He said, "Here, let me take a picture of you holding my Advil. It's fine. It's fine."
Like, that's weird, but all right.
There's a lot of Huawei.
Very nice.
There's not enough ZTE spend titles in here. They said you could do a lot via text. Says Sarah.
You can. So many things.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, tech is all ears.
Oh, that's good.
That one's good.
How about we just name it Tarantula?
There's already a movie called Tarantula.
Exactly.
There is?
So
I would never watch that.
See that SEO we were getting? Come on.
Remember the movie Arachnophobia?
Yes, I do. And it didn't help my arachnophobia at all.
No, it's awful.
It made it,
it's upsetting and
the bathroom
just
scene
shouldn't be made.
The bathroom scene where they're coming out of the faucets and everything. Yeah, I know that's the one that got. I can't. Yeah,
it's just, and they're different sizes.
Yeah, because
how come they never made herpophobia for people who don't like snakes?
Oh,
snakes on a plane, kind of.
Oh, I guess they did. They just didn't call it herpophobia.
Oh, they call it. What was it?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
What was the one with worms? Was it Slither? No.
I don't know.
There was one where like just worms were like just invading everything. People were eating worms and didn't realize it. And
Slitherphobia.
I mean, people eat worms now on purpose. I believe they're high in protein.
They do it when they're angry.
One of the scariest ones was that. What's that one? That praying mantis that actually became like started dressing like a human. You know, he was mutated.
You're thinking of Mimic.
Yeah, Mimic. Yeah.
They had.
I thought you were thinking of a real
praying mantis is like a reoccurring theme on DTNS.
No, because we did the story about the praying mantis that wear the 3D glasses.
Right,
and then we made a T-shirt with the 3D glasses on the T-shirt, and then I sent the T-shirts to the lab where they're studying the praying mantises who wear the 3D glasses.
Yeah,
that's a real thing. So I was like, really?
The idea of the movie in Mimic was that who was in Mighty Aphrodite? What's her name? What's
her name?
Michelle's wedding. What's her name? Something Sorvino.
Mira Sorvino. Paul Sorvino's kid.
She's a biologist that helped develop the insect called the Judas bug to get rid of the cockroach problem, I think, in New York City. But the bug keeps evolving until it's like human sized, and it takes over the subway.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you can't tell because with
this is the movie Mimic.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I never watch it.
Yeah, and the wings fold down. It looks like a guy in a trench coat.
Yeah, it's great.
You don't really pay attention.
Oh, yeah, that's not a thing I'm going to watch.
Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'm
Guess I'll
gonna eat some worms.
Are you thinking about the HomePod? Oh, I'm sorry.
So really, man, it was that bad, huh?
Besides, like the fact that you think of worms like kind of in the ground, like graves and stuff. It's like, are people afraid of worms?
No,
they're
just afraid of worms.
I don't think
until Europeans colonized North America, and there were no earthworms in North America.
Oh,
is that true?
I think that I'm pretty sure on that one.
All right. You have citations.
He sounds like a 65% sure.
It's like Rotten Tomatoes. Can you imagine Rotten Tomatoes on whether or not you think so?
Wait. Sarah, you haven't seen Tremors?
No.
They're the best, worst movies ever.
No, the first one was awesome. What are you talking about?
Okay, I meant the subsequent ones.
That was classic bacon.
No, because Michael Gross just did one like 2-3 years ago. It was just like,
it about,
you're 100, stop.
Is it about earthquakes?
Well, there are things that are moving the earth. You should watch it.
It's about creatures, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm just saying
there is an animal involved.
Mm-hmm.
Very large animal.
But it has Kevin Bacon.
So earthworms disappeared from North America 10,000 years ago when glaciers wiped them out. And then in the 1600s, they were brought along with Europeans.
Probably help them farm. Yeah.
And I'm okay with worms. They're cool.
Just validating Roger's assertion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, spiders, absolutely not.
I don't.
But we need them.
Worms are fine.
We need spiders, but they're awful.
I used to hate spiders, but they eat a lot of the annoying insects around my place, like mosquitoes and. Man, I found a huge waspy the other day. Like it looks like a hornet, but it's a lot longer, and it has the waist of a wasp where it thins out and gets really. It was like this big.
It was stuck coat. Oh wait, Roger was just watching Mimic. Never mind.
It was really fit. Had a real nice waist, like a wasp. I don't.
You're making fun of my zoological observations in my home.
I am not. You know, my feeling on spiders is as long as they stay out of my living space, I'm fine. So corners that I don't go in behind furniture, have at it. Eat the flies.
Yeah, because you're not going there anyway.
The ants. If you run out across my floor, I'm gonna get you. Like that is.
I mean,
we're gonna evolve you into not running across my floor and scaring my wife.
A long time ago, at this old house I lived at, well, the last house I lived at when I still lived with my parents, in Sebastopol, which is, kind of country, and so there's lots of all sorts of creatures all over the place all the time. The bottom floor was almost like dug into the hill, so it was like you were sort of surrounded by earth, and there were just always creatures in there. And one day there was a tarantula, I'm not even kidding, in like this little area that I kind of had separated from my parents. It was a tarantula, and I panicked and I vacuumed it up because I know. And I have never forgiven myself for that, because I'm like, thinking about it later, it's like I panicked in the moment. I was scared. It was a lot. There was this very large hairy spider in my living space. But I killed it, and then I thought, like, that was probably someone's pet. They got out.
And then later in life, you made a restaurant called Build City Burger, and you used that tarantula.
I remember back to that old folk
I'll
tale.
eat them, as penance. No,
that old
I
folk
still
tale.
feel bad about that.
Did you like Charlotte's Web as a kid?
Yes.
Well, think about you're killing Charlotte.
No, that doesn't do it. That doesn't do it for me.
I'm still upset that I did that, but I didn't know what else to do in the moment.
Well, it was a hairy.
Charlotte was not a tarantula. I would say she was like a Black Widow more than anything.
No, I think.
But she wasn't like poisonous. She was just a spider.
Yeah, but she ate flies.
Yeah,
but all spiders do.
But tarantulas don't make webs like that on walls. They're on the ground.
They make little hole burrows.
Yeah. So.
Well, I don't like them at all.
We had one on Call for Help. The guest brought it on, and I had it walk across my hands.
Did you call for help?
No.
Yeah.
I wanted to change the name to Call for Awesome because it was a tarantula.
Oh my god.
Morgan Webb of Tech TV fame had a pet tarantula. I don't remember the name of her tarantula anymore, but I think she actually brought it had it in her cube.
Nope.
I know, I didn't appreciate it either, but some people love spiders.
I don't mind tarantulas. They're like just big furry things. They're fine.
They're like 8-legged dogs.
Yeah.
They're not.
Really?
They're like
I want to see you walking your tarantula.
They seem like they're muscly. Like if you open them up, it'd be like lungs, a kidney. There's too much going on.
Now you want to dissect one? What kind of one?
I don't want to. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want anything to do with them. If I see one again, I'll vacuum it up.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about, and it's flesh-eating viruses.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst one.
Because there is one in the state of Victoria in Australia, and they don't know what's causing it. It's not supposed to be there. It's not the kind of, usually it's only in really tropical jungly areas, and it's coastal. And I'm traveling to Melbourne in May, which is in Victoria on the coast.
You better take some Robitussin.
Yeah, and make sure that your guest will that work.
Robitussin cures everything. You got to break a leg, Robitussin.
Have some Advil. Take some ecstasy.
You know what? If you're super paranoid, I would say when you land, buy a container full of those bleach wipes and wherever you're staying at, you just wipe down everything before you touch it.
I'm going to buy a couple of containers and stitch them together and wear them.
Now, this flesh-eating, this is a flesh-eating virus, not bacteria.
Well, you know what? That's
probably
a really good question.
It's probably bacteria.
I said virus because that's like what's in your head is the typical, but it's probably a bacteria.
Yeah. Because
in that case, just carry a lot of moldy bread with you.
Wear gloves while you hold your ecstasy in Melbourne.
Just take the ecstasy and it won't matter.
Yes.
And yes, there will be a Melbourne meetup, by the way. The details are in the monthly Patreon post, and we'll have them again. I don't know them off the top of my head.
You're a brave man for going to Australia. I think it is the center of all things scary. And I don't mean the people. I mean, like, it was an isolated island for millions of years where everything festered and got bigger and more vicious. They're the most poisonous, craziest animals on that. I'm never going.
Yeah, it's bacteria.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know. I'm never going to Australia.
They have dangerous reptiles.
What are you talking?
No, I am never going to Australia. They have the scariest animals on Earth there.
As long as you stay in the city limits, it's fine.
No, people have those little house spiders like this, and like, oh, that's my little spider.
Well, it's not all over the country. I mean, it's just like rattlesnakes don't live all over the U.S.
We don't know that.
We do know that. They track their population.
All the places to be like, I'm not going there. I've just never heard anyone be like, Australia.
Yeah, no. That I've heard lots of people talk about that.
I'm never going to Australia. I don't care if they pay me. Never.
What?
Bairnsdale ulcer is the name of this flesh-eating bacteria.
Oh,
also referred to as the Beruli ulcer or the Daintree ulcer.
I mean, what about like the island of Komodo? That seems
Komodo dragons
in Australia.
It's all the same. It's all the same thing.
Well,
kangaroos are scary. Those little koala bears are scary.
Koala bears are nasty, but they're
they're vicious.
Are not nasty. They're adorable.
No. They are vicious. They
don't like you. If they don't like you.
What's
interesting is because they subsist on the eucalyptus, they kind of get a little drunk off of it. Like if they eat a lot of it when they're full. So sometimes you'll see them walking around like across the road and they kind of look like a drunk person. They're like a little dazed, like what?
Is now I'm thinking of childhood songs again. Is a kookaburra
a bird? It's a bird.
It's a bird.
Kookaburra sits
in the old gum tree. Yeah. I always thought it was a song about koala bears, and that was just the name.
Men at Work they got into a lawsuit because supposedly the song "I Come From a Land Down Under" was based on the melody of that old kookaburra song.
Oh, really? They don't.
I don't remember if they won or not.
Isn't that song public domain at this point?
Let me see. Men at Work.
It's probably 83, I would guess.
Wait, the Kookaburra song or the Men at Work song?
Men at Work. Land Down Under.
It says Colin Hayes says that Down Under lawsuit contributed to death of his dad and bandmate. But this doesn't tell me that it's been resolved or not. This is from like 4 years ago. 3 years ago.
Well, perhaps we should stop the video stream.
Yes. You can find out more if you do a Google search on Kookaburra and Men at Work.
I just made